Howdy folks, Chris here with the antlerstore.com. I'm going to talk to you guys today about how antlers are graded and why they're graded the way they are. Antlers are graded based off of two primary conditions. One, its overall appearance in terms of the amount of weathering. Second is its durability or its structural integrity, because the elements, the sun and the water, are mass destroyers of bone. Any exposure to sunlight or to water will start the deterioration process. Now, we as antler brokers like to put antlers in 3 or 4 different categories based off of the amount of weathering that they have, but in reality, antlers are degrading constantly with every second they're exposed to the outdoor elements. And so really they don't always fit into these perfect categories, but we try to do so. And we try to do so based off of the way we're going to sell them. I'm going to separate the antlers here into 2 primary categories, okay? To make this easy on us. We have everything on the left side of the table does not have any surface cracks at all on the antlers, and I'll explain that in a minute. Everything over here has some level of cracking. So it's reached that weathering process where now the inside of the antler is getting exposed to moisture, and as the moisture seeps in those cracks, it's going to deteriorate the inside even more and more and more. So let's talk about the ones that do not have surface cracks, okay? These are both A or AB, depending on what you want to go with, but our top end or our high end antlers that are brown, those are what we traditionally call A grade antlers. Now, irrespective of broken tines, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Right now, we're just talking about color. So these are your fresh ones. Your next level that doesn't have cracks are going to be your B grade, which are white, at least some level of white. They have sun fading somewhere on the antler. Wherever it falls, usually the sun fading will be on one side of the antler and not the other, based off of the way it fell and the sunlight hitting the antler, which is what does the bleaching. Now, not all white antler is necessarily sun bleached. This one is definitely sun bleached. It's been exposed to the sun. This one here looks like it was more naturally white while it was on the deer's head. Either way, it's not brown or a deep brown, so we put these in what we call the B category. So now moving on to the 2 lower grades, and I say lower grades because this 3rd grade really isn't that much lower than your B grade, but we have a new level of weathering. We're starting to get some level of surface cracks. Typically on the inside of the beam, you'll often find those cracks down here around the burr or around the brow tine, because as they fall, when they fall on the ground, this is a nice place to hold water. As the rain and the moisture hits the antler, it'll start to collect, and over time, that water and then the sunlight and the dry and the wet and the dry and the wet process starts to decay the antlers, and you'll start to develop surface cracks. But on these C grade antlers that have surface cracks, they're still solid bone. They're great for decor. They're great for knife handles. They're still just as good as these antlers over here. They just have a little bit of surface cracking in them. Now we have the final grade, which is heavy weathering. And so these antlers are going to have a chalky feel. They're going to have deep surface cracks. Oftentimes they're going to have surface cracks on both sides of the antlers, but they're heavily, heavily weathered, okay? They're still solid, as we don't sell anything in our store that is not at least solid to some degree. Now, there is antler that we don't sell nor buy, and that, I had a hard time finding this an example this morning because I don't typically carry it. I don't do anything with it. I get rid of it as soon as it comes in. But any antler that has a pink color, any kind of pink coloring, is a no-go. That pink is created by a bacteria. And so since a lot of antler on the market is sold on the pet food market, we don't want to be giving animals antlers that have bacteria in them. So you may ask yourself, pink, well, what causes the pink? What causes that bacteria to form? Again, it's that wet, dry, wet, dry, wet, dry process. As the more they're exposed to the elements, and oftentimes that pink will develop when an antler has been chewed on and exposes the interior core to it. That seems to be where that pink will show up first. So how we do it here at the Antler Store, basically we separate them into their physical color and the amount of crack that they have. we tend to cull out and do not sell antlers with chew marks. You can see how this B-grade antler was pretty much destroyed here at the top by squirrels or rodents or something. We cull those out, those go into the dog chew bin, and we sell those on the wholesale market. We do not sell anything in our store that has significant chew marks. Now, occasionally on the lower end, on your heavily weathered stuff, we will sell things that have some chew marks. I get a lot of requests for these low-grade antlers, the big ones. It's just hard to find these heavily cracked antlers that don't have any chew marks because they've been out there in the wild for so long, exposed to both the sun and also vulnerable to getting chewed on by the little critters out there. And everything in the woods eats on antlers, including cows. Everything will chew on these things. They have lots of nutrients and minerals in them, which is why they make an excellent chew for dog treats. So there you have it. That's a bird's eye view on how we at the Antler Store grade our antlers, and hopefully that should give you the confidence and predictability to know that what you're purchasing will work for your application. If there's anything we've left out that you think might help you make a more informed decision before you purchase, just leave us a comment, let us know, and we'll be happy to add that to the video. As always, I'm Chris with theantlerstore.com. We greatly appreciate your support.